The fuck? Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. Now, today I wanted to bring to you a video on a little card called Necrovalley. Now, for us here in the TCG, Necrovalley has pretty much been a very powerful card in the past, especially in the side deck, mainly because of its ability to pretty much lock down the graveyards to an extent, as well as preventing banishing on all sides of the board. But one thing that's really interesting is that the OCG in the 20th anniversary pack actually got an errated update to Necrovalley. Now, for those of you who don't know, Necrovalley's probably seen an errata more times than any card in this fucking game. Counting this errata, I think now this makes the 7th or 8th time that Necrovalley's been errated. And the reason for that is kind of simple. The wording on Necrovalley's always been a little bit complicated because they wanted to make it affect certain types of cards in the graveyard and then, like, pretty much single out other types. They never really got the wording correct, which is why they've always had to continuously errata the card. Sometimes they wanted it to affect everything in the graveyard. Sometimes they didn't want it to affect certain things. It's just been a lot of confusion, to be perfectly blunt. But now, with this new errata, this is really ridiculous. So the current text on Necrovalley states that any card other than itself that's an activated effect that would pretty much have some sort of function in the graveyard, that effect cannot apply. So anything like, let's say, Call the Haunted, for example, if you were to target a monster in your grave while Necrovalley's up, Necrovalley pretty much prevents that Call the Haunted from working because it's a card that's trying to move a card from the graveyard to a different spot on the board. So Necrovalley prevents effects like that from working. But there are cards like, let's say, for example, Perform Mage Trick Clown that would work under the effect of Necrovalley because as long as the card is moving itself from the graveyard to a different spot, not being pretty much interacting with any other card effect, then Necrovalley allowed it to do so. But now in the OCG, that's no longer going to be the case because the new text more or less says any graveyard-based effect is pretty much going to be negated. So, what does that mean, though? Like, why does this matter? Well, the reason why this matters and why this is so big is because Necrovalley now becomes fuckload times better. Just a fuckload times better all around overall, mainly because it hits so many other things that it didn't hit before, and it actually becomes a very viable side deck against some certain specific archetypes. So, for example, I already mentioned Trick Clown, so now that Trick Clown is no longer going to be affected by Necrovalley, that can affect stuff like ABC as well as Lightsworn, because both of those decks typically play the Brilliant Fusion engine. And speaking of Lightsworn, that means that cards like Lightsworn Wolf as well as Fairy Tail Snow are also not going to be able to function under the new Necrovalley. This also affects cards like Glow Up Bulb, which can hurt some decks like DDD and Blue Eyes. But I think the biggest deck that this now hurts is Paleozoics. And the reason I say that is because every single Paleozoic monster that changed to a trap card's activation to be special summoned from the graveyard now no longer can apply under the effects of new Necrovalley. So any deck that's basically running Terraforming already in the main, which is a lot of them, and even more so in the OCG, can just side copies of Necrovalley to go up against their Paleozoic matchup, drop down the Necrovalley, and essentially shut down the entire archetype, assuming they don't have something to pop the Necrovalley. But with that being aside, the fact that they can pretty much shut down the entire special summoning engine in general is just massive. It's just so big. And then on top of the fact that it already prevents cards from being banished as well, the fact that it now pretty much flat out blanket negates everything in the graveyard makes Necrovalley such an incredibly more powerful card that once this errata comes to the TCG, you're going to start seeing Necrovalley see a lot more play. It's really blowing my mind too because you might even start seeing people siding copies of Gravekeeper's Commandant just to search this because even though it's not a terraforming, it fulfills the same role, but then some Pendulum decks, for instance, can also special summon out that Commandant as a base level 4 to use for level 4 Xyz plays, or just anything like that, any material for like a Metalfoes fusion. Oh, this also hits Metalfoes fusion, by the way, too, because now they can't shuffle it back because it's targeting itself and it's a graveyard effect. So, overall, the new Necrovalley is absolutely fucking crazy, and it's kind of blowing my mind that they're still trying to errata this card to this day, but I don't give a fuck, because anything to stop Paleozoics, in my mind, is absolutely wonderful. But that's just my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about the new errata of Necrovalley. I'll have the text in the description if you guys want to look at it more closely, but I pretty much covered it in depth as much as I could. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and be sure to back me on Patreon as well, because by pledging just $1 a month, you're investing in my ability to bring you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thank you guys so much again. We'll see you next time.